I've been in data analytics for over 6 years now. I started as an entry-level data analyst all the way to my current role as a data analytics lead, earning 6 figures in British pounds per year. And I've been working for the most prestigious consulting and tech companies out there. And well, in this video, I will compress all the knowledge that I've acquired so far in my career. We will cover the most important frameworks, soft skills, technical skills, and also the mindset that a data analytics professional must have. And so if you power through this video, my goal is to save you a lot of time and money while you're learning data analytics. And if you like this type of video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel for similar content. And well, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that I want to cover is understanding at a deep level what data analytics is. And I don't want to do that with theoretical definitions. I want to use a practical framework. And why am I even covering this? Because if you do data analytics and you take part of 1, 2, 3, 4 data analytics projects, then you will understand that all projects, they kind of follow a similar path and they kind of go through different steps. Obviously, that doesn't mean that they go on step by step on a linear way. They can, for example, go on a middle step and then go backwards one step and then proceed to the next ones. But that's not the point here. The point here is to really understand the life cycle of a data analytics project. And obviously, there are different ways to define it, but the framework that I prefer is called the AWESOME framework, which obviously is a catchy name, so pretty easy to remember. And so the AWESOME framework stands for Obtain, Scrub, Explore, Model, and Interpret. So the first step is obvious. You have to obtain the data. There is no way you can do a data analytics or data science project if you don't have any data to work with. And so the easy way to do that would be to ask data engineers that maybe have access or created the infrastructure for you to retrieve the data. But however, most of the times it's on you to actually collect the data somewhere in the organization. And that is obviously not the sexiest part of being a data analytics professional, because you will probably spend a lot of time asking people around and just delaying your work because you don't know where the data is. Then the next step is called scrub. And so scrub means that when you collect the data, you have to understand the data quality of the data. Is this data good to use, or do you have to transform and make it ready to use for your analysis? And so these steps involves assessing data quality, understanding if there are duplicates in the data, if there are missing values. Obviously, if there are missing values, then you have to find a solution and probably fill up those blanks. And that means also maybe putting together different data sources and doing joins and different calculation to create your final data source. And obviously, while you do that, it's important that you document all the transformation that you do so that other people can also check your work and understand what was the process to get to the final result. And obviously in here, I gave you a brief description, but trust me, this phase can be so tough and long. Okay, and so now we have our final data source and we have the next phase that is called explore. We sometimes call this phase exploratory data analysis, or we use the acronym EDA. And you can think about it as opening the data for the first time and really understanding what you're dealing with. So you can check the different columns, you have to understand the definitions of different terms in your data, you can understand how much data you have, and well, a common way to explore your data is using what is called descriptive statistics, which in a brief way means really understanding the main characteristics of your data. And here you can use measures of central tendency like the mean, the mode, and the median, or even measures of dispersions like the standard deviation. Then the next phase is called model, and this is probably more common for really advanced data analytics professionals or even data scientists. And again, in a nutshell, that means using input data, so data that you have, to predict output data that you currently don't have. And so here the first step would be probably to understand what are the data fields, also known as features, that you want to use in your model. And then you probably need to divide your data sets. You need at least the training data set and also the validation data set. And then from here, you would use the training data to train your model in order to get into the output result. And lastly, you will need to understand the performance of each of your models using the validation data, and that will give you the best model that you need to use for your specific use case. And then the last phase of our framework is called interpret, because now you've done all the work, but actually you have to kind of understand what are your results and make those really relevant for the business. And here probably the main lesson is that even if you've done all of this technical work that we have talked about so far, in front of you, you will probably have a stakeholder that doesn't understand all this technicality. And so you will need to make all of your results very digestible and very actionable so that someone else on the other side, maybe more senior than you in the organization, will take action based on your results. Okay, so now that we covered the data analytics lifecycle, we also need to understand what is also not working about this framework. And so the first thing is that we said that we start with the obtain phase. But actually, if you are a smart data analytics professional, you will need to understand first, does it even make sense to start this project to obtain the data and, create the whole analysis? Because obviously it's important not to start this whole piece of work if you don't even see the value of it at the start. Then the other thing that this model probably doesn't take into account is that all of this is not a one-man job, but it's probably a job of a team. And so in here, if you are, for example, a data analyst, you will probably need to interact a lot with data engineers, for example, to obtain the data, and maybe data scientists or even machine learning engineers for the model part of it. And then lastly, as I mentioned before, this is likely not a linear framework that you will follow, but you will probably go in one phase and maybe you will need to, go back on a previous phase and maybe obtain more data to then proceed and going forward. And obviously, if you want to know in more details everything about data analytics, make sure to check out all of my courses from my website. We have a data analytics master course and 5 different crash courses so far, and soon we'll release more as well. We have more than 200 people enrolled. We are receiving so many amazing feedbacks. So many people are also getting the job straight after the course. And also by completing any of the courses, you will get a certificate that you can share with your network. So in case you're interested, make sure to check the links in video description. Now back to the video. Okay, so the next part of this video is understanding the technical skills that you absolutely need if you want to become a data analytics professional. And so I think you recognize what I have in my screen now, and I'm talking about the old but gold Microsoft Excel. And you might have already one question here. So why are you showing me Microsoft Excel now that is 2024? And the simple reason here is that most people in an organization will know how to use Microsoft Excel. And so that means that Microsoft Excel automatically becomes one of the most popular tools whenever you're dealing with any kind of data. And so because of that, you will also need to be a master in Microsoft Excel in order to exchange files with others and explain your results as well. Obviously, you can do a ton of things in Excel, but if you can see here that I have this sample data open in this tab, probably the most powerful tool of Excel is using functions and formulas. There are hundreds of formulas in Excel, but obviously you will probably end up using, maybe 20 or 30 of them. And so the easiest example is to click on a cell, and if you want to use a function, you will click on the sign equal. And then let's say that we want to do a sum. As you can see, as I type, Excel will suggest which formulas to use. So I'm gonna double click on sum, and also it will show me basically what I need to complete my function. And in this case, I can just select all of these range here, close the brackets, press enter, and this is my result. And again, there will be a lot of tips and tricks to make your workflow way faster when working with Microsoft Excel. And so one way to show that to you is, for example, dragging this cell all the way to the right. And in that way, it will just copy paste the formula that I apply in this cell for the other cells as well. As I said, there are a lot of stuff that you can do. So for example, something that you will see in the homepage is what is called conditional formatting, which is pretty common for data in data analytics. So if I select the range of cells here and then I say conditional formatting, and then maybe I can do a color scale, and I can select, something from green to red. This will automatically show me, in green the highest values and in red the lowest values, and in white you will see probably the values in the middle. And then if I move to, for example, the insert tab, you will see that something very popular as well in Excel is what is called pivot table. And so let's try to do that. I can click on create pivot table. It automatically selects the range of value that I could select in here. And then I can click on existing worksheet on where I want my pivot table to be created. So for example, I can click on here. And basically what this allows me to do is to kind of reshape the data in best way that I prefer. And so for example, I can take Q1 and drag it into rows. And what this has done is basically giving me the different values that Q1 has in this column C of my raw data. And so for example, you will see that the number 20 is appearing only once, whereas actually in column C I can see the number 20 appears for January, February and March. Now something else that I can do from the insert tab is using charts. So maybe I can click on recommend a chart, and Excel will automatically suggest a chart that I may want to build in Excel based on my data. So for example, if I select the first one, I immediately see this chart for basically different values for different month, and I have also the different color for the quarter as well. And quickly, if I go into draw, probably this is not something that you would ever use in Excel. Page layout is just again something for your formatting. Formulas, again, something that probably you wouldn't use a lot because you already have functions built in when you select on different cells. Whereas actually the data tab is something that you would probably need to use a lot. You can click on the get data, and so using Power Query, which is the way to connect your Excel spreadsheet to a data source or a database. And probably you will also use a lot the filter option. So I don't know, if I click on Q1 and then I click on filter, then I have these drop down automatically, and I can filter different values depending on what I prefer. And then again, if I go on review, again, probably a tab that is not very popular for data analytics professional in Excel. And also view is more about formatting. You can use macros, which are ways to basically record what you do in Excel so that you can automate your process. But to be honest with you, this is not something that is as popular now that we have more advanced tools like Python that can do pretty much the same thing. And so again, you can do a lot of stuff in Microsoft Excel, and you can even become super advanced with it. But this is just an idea to see some simple basic stuff that you can do with it. Now, the second most important tool that you need to master if you are into data analytics is what is called SQL or SQL. You have to be careful with the namings because there is a bit of a war online between SQL and SQL. Tell me in the comments which one you prefer. And actually in here, I'm going to use my SQL cheat sheet that you can also find in video description. So make sure to check that out in case you're interested. It's for free. And so why are we talking about SQL? Well, the main reason is that Excel is super popular, but it becomes very hard to work with big data when you are using Excel. And so that's why if you're a data analyst in an organization or a data scientist or data engineer, you will probably need to interact with some sort of database, which in a simple way is just a storage of a huge amount of data. And so if you want to retrieve any type of information from a database and perform analysis, then SQL becomes the language that you need to go for. And so if I scroll down and I open the first section, we have here a brief description of what SQL is. There are different type of relational databases that you can connect to, for example, MySQL, Oracle databases, or DB2 Express, or there are even cloud SQL databases that obviously are becoming way more popular at the moment. What is super important to understand is that depending on the type of database that you can connect to, you will need to use a specific dialect of SQL. And so the most popular ones are MySQL and PostgreSQL, which are pretty much the same, but there are some type of functions that maybe work in one and don't work on the other one. So again, just very important to be aware of this, because otherwise you will encounter a lot of errors when you run your SQL queries. And if I open the select statement section, you will see the most popular statement is the select statement. And so if I do a select star from a table, then I would automatically select all the data from that specific table. And that is, again, the most basic command that you can do in SQL. And so as I said, the select statement is probably the most popular SQL statement out there. You can do, again, a lot of stuff in there. You can add condition using where, you can specify the data in between dates that you want to retrieve. You can group by your data in different ways, or even order it in a specific order. But if you want to see a short summary of what you can do with the select statement, is basically you can select columns from your table, you can add where conditions, you can group by and then put the column name. You can also add the having conditions that works with the aggregate function. In case you aggregate together some data, then you will need to use having if you want to add conditions instead of where. And then you can order by a specific column name. And also you can limit the number of rows that you retrieve. Then let's go ahead and close this section in here. And then probably what I'm going to show you is the aggregate function. So this gives you a list of functions that you can use in SQL. And so you can do a count, you can do the sum, the mean, max, average, round, If not, you can do a coalesce. These are all array functions that you can use in SQL. Date functions are also very, very important and common. You will often work with date and time, and so you can use the cast function. You can use the date diff function, the date part, and a lot more date and time functions. And then, as we mentioned at the start of this video, you might need to join more data and tables together. And so that is when joins comes into place in SQL. Again, you have different type of joins depending on your need. You have inner join if you want the intersection of the data present in two tables. You can use left join if you want to retrieve all the data from the left table and just add more information of those rows that are in common between the two tables from the right table. Or you can even do the full outer join if you want to retrieve all data from both tables. So again, a lot of stuff that can be done in SQL, and obviously again you can really go into advanced levels. For example, window functions is a topic that is a bit more advanced, and that's why it's very likely that will be present in data analytics interviews. So make sure to master that in case you are doing interviews now. But yeah, again, if you need this resource, super helpful, and I use it on pretty much on a daily basis, make sure to check the link in description. Now, the third tool that I want to cover, and again is super essential in data analytics, is Tableau, which is a data visualization tool. And as you can see on my screen, I have a dashboard that is actually built in based on my followers summary throughout different social media channels. And so again, why are we even talking about Tableau? Well, the reason is very simple. You can do visualizations, for example, in Microsoft Excel. You cannot use SQL to do visualization, but the thing is that Tableau becomes a tool that specifically specializes on data visualization, and so it becomes way more powerful than Microsoft Excel. And so, for example, what you see now in the screen is probably something that is pretty straightforward in Tableau, but it would take a long time in Microsoft Excel. So how do you start building something like this? So first of all, you have to click on the data source page on the top left, and you have to connect with some sort of data. So in my case, I'm connected to actually my Google Drive, where I have this file called Community Tracker. That's also a way for me to show you that you can connect to different data sources. Depending on where you have the data, you can connect to a database with Tableau. In this case, I'm gonna use Google Drive. And here I basically see a preview of my data. So I see the different columns and the different data types, and yeah, basically everything that I have in my data. And then when I'm happy with the connection with the data source, then I can go into basically creating a worksheet. So worksheet is basically a chart that I can create, and then the dashboard would be the place where I can put together all the worksheet that I created before. And so here I was showing you the end result, but actually these are different components, different worksheets that I put together to basically generate this final dashboard. And so let's say that I want to show you how I created this one here. So I'm gonna click on this one and go to sheet. And in here, well, first of all, I wanted to basically count the number of followers that I have on TikTok. And so because I have data of all channels, the first thing that I have to do is adding this filter. So I drag and drop the channel value from here, which is this one here. I'm just gonna redo it, and I put it here in the filter, and then I select the TikTok and click on OK. And then basically in the marks section is where I put the values that I want to see in the worksheet. So for example, if I want to see the total number of my followers on TikTok, that's where I basically took the count values and I drag it into the marks. And well, now you can ignore this 0% versus previous month because I haven't updated the data for the current month. But yeah, this is just to give you an idea on how you can use formulas and different values that you want to show in the worksheet. And in this case, I also added a interesting feature. So when I hover over my mouse on the logo, it will show me basically the percentage increases throughout the different period of time. And so in here, for example, you can see that in January 2023, I had a massive increase in number of followers on TikTok. And so yeah, this is probably the good example to show you what you can do with Tableau, the power of it. You can add icons, you can add so many different features. You have the tooltip to show details on data as I hover over the mouse. And yeah, you can really be creative and really adding a lot of interactivity. Now we just talked about Tableau, but we have actually touched based on a whole word that is called data visualization, and which is to me like a fascinating word because it's basically the art of showing data in a visual way to tell different stories. And so again, there is a lot of interesting stuff about it and different rules on making a very effective visualization. And well, one thing that I find interesting is how you choose the best visualization whenever you have to create a dashboard, because obviously, you know, sometimes you will need to start from scratch. And so this is an example of a resource that you can use to decide, you know, how you want to show your data. And so, you know, if you want to show the correlation, probably you will need to use a scatter plot or a timeline. If you want to show sorting of different categories, maybe a bar chart is a good option. Histogram is good for a distribution. Then we have changes over time, and you would have probably the line graph. If you want to show part of a whole, you can probably use a pie chart, even though now in the community it's becoming bad practice to use a pie chart because it involves a lot of brain effort to understand what's happening. This is just because it's not as straightforward for our brain to understand degrees in a pie chart, especially if we have many different categories within it. And obviously you can use spatial data with maps in case you have that type of data as well. And then last but not least, we have Python, which is a programming language for those data analytics professionals that want to become really full stack and kind of take it to the next level. Obviously, Python is more common for data engineers and data scientists, but again, if you are a data analyst and you want to become more advanced, that's also really nice to have in your curriculum. And you can think of Python as a programming language that is super versatile. You can do so many different things. You know, Python is used in data engineering, in machine learning, in data analysis, in data visualization, in generative AI as well, and so many different things. I also seen a tutorial on how to use Python to switch on and off the lights in your room. And well, the way to learn Python is probably to, well, first of all, learn the foundational elements that you would need to use in Python. So, you know, you have to be familiar with variables, with Python data types, working with numbers, taking input from the user, and then also going into conditional formatting, the functional programming, so, you know, defining functions that you can then reuse in your program, data abstraction loops, a lot of stuff that you need as a foundation. And then once you cover the foundation, then the beauty of Python is using libraries. And libraries are basically things that other people have built in the past, and these are open source for us to use and obviously make specific tasks way more straightforward. So rather than recreating a new program from scratch, you can just reuse these kind of packages and libraries and functions that other people made available for us. And so one example of maybe the most popular library for data analytics using Python is that is called Pandas. And if I show you here an example, you can use Pandas for connecting to a CSV file. So, you know, we've seen before Microsoft Excel. So let's say that you have data in Excel saved in a CSV file, which is a specific format that you may use for your data. Then what we do here in Pandas is defining a data frame. So data frame is a terminology in Pandas of a table. And then basically here we are saying, okay, let's define this data frame that we're going to call game data. And game data is gonna take data from this CSV file, and we actually specified the path in our laptop of these CSV files so that when we run this command, then Python will immediately understand where the data is coming from. And then we want to print the game data and only the head, so that means we only want to print the first 5 rows, and this is the result that we have. So this is kind of the confirmation that our code is working and that you know, we have our data basically stored in Python, and then from here we can then perform different types of tasks. And so probably the interesting thing is, why do data analytics professionals use Python? Well, the main reason is that you want to automate different tasks in Python. So let's say that every time you have to open an Excel file and then maybe perform a series of operations with this Excel file, and then you have to save it to a different folder. Well, instead of doing all of these manual tasks, what you can do is creating a Python script that you define once that will incorporate all of these tasks that you want to perform. And then instead of you doing it manually, you will just run this Python file in your machine, and that will basically proceed with all these tasks for you, and that will definitely save you a lot of time. And also bear in mind that Python, as I mentioned, is also very good for data visualizations, and again, we have different libraries that we can use that are specifically built for data visualization purposes, and these are, for example, Matplotlib, Seaborn, Plotly, and Bokeh. These are pretty much the most famous ones and the most powerful if you want to create charts and visualization using Python, because maybe you don't want to use Tableau, maybe you don't want to use Excel. And well, once you get familiar with all of these technical skills, you will also immediately understand that you can actually do the same task in different tools. But obviously every tool will have its own language or style to do that. So if I want to give you a practical example, if we want to, let's say, join different tables together, then, probably in Excel you will need to use Power Query to create your data model. Whereas in SQL, you will need to use a join. And so, you can do a select statement, and then you select the table 1, you join it with the table 2, and then you also specify the column that you will need to join the 2 tables together. In Tableau, there is a very nice interface in the data source tab where you can drag and drop different tables and specify again which type of join you want to do. And then in Python you can achieve pretty much the same thing using pandas, and specifically, you can define your first data frame, your second data frame, and then create a merge data frame using the merge method from pandas. And so this is just to show you that once you become a bit more advanced, then also the skill that you will need to develop is really understanding, what is the best way to do things. And so, there is this misconception that, for example, if you know Python, you should try to do everything with Python. But actually, the smart data analytics professional will immediately understand that maybe there is a task that is super straightforward to do in Excel that maybe will resolve more problems using Excel, because maybe the final stakeholder, or your client prefers Excel as the final format. And so everything that we've seen here is just a tool, and is really important again to focus on what you're trying to achieve with these tools. Like, the main thing is to create value in the organization, and create value and create change based on the insights that you found and the analysis that you performed. And that's it, guys. This is pretty much everything that I learned over the past 6 years as a data analytics professional. I really hope that you got a lot of value out of this video, and if you like this type of content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel, because that helps me a lot to reach even more people. I will also leave here some project tutorials that you can follow step by step with me to create a data analytics project and add it to your portfolio. And well, with that said, enjoy the rest of your day. Ciao for now, and see you in the next one.